Leave Babylon, flee from the Babylonians. Announce this with shouts of joy and proclaim it. Send it out to the ends of the earth, say, the Lord has redeemed his servant Jacob. They did not thirst when he led them through the deserts. He made water flow for them from the rock. He split the rock, and water gushed out. Isaiah 48:20 and 21. I will bring you from the nations and gather you from the countries where you have been scattered, with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, and with outpoured wrath. I will bring you into the desert of the nations, and there, face to face, I will execute judgment upon you. As I judged your fathers in the desert of the land of Egypt, so I will judge you, declares the sovereign Lord. Ezekiel 20:34 through 36. And he took me off in the spirit to a desert. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was covered with blasphemous names, and which had 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, and was adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, and was holding a golden cup in her hand, filled with abominations, and all the unclean things of her prostitution, and the prostitution of the earth. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of the abominations of the world. Revelation 17:3 through 5. Such a deliverance from Babylon after the fact would follow the parallel of the Jewish return to the land after the destruction of the historical Babylon. It is thus entirely possible and consistent with the scriptures quoted to envision a scenario wherein Babylon will be so thoroughly looted and so deliberately put to the torch that she becomes largely uninhabitable for all time to come, yet without the complete and immediate destruction of all who live within her borders at that time, even though the loss of life may be extreme and the loss of property nearly complete. According to this interpretation, the transfer of population from out of the territory of destroyed Babylon will occur after Christ's return with life in the ruins, until that time existing on a bare subsistence level, quite a contrast to Babylon's former unprecedented luxury. This is what the Lord says, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. For your sake I will send to Babylon and bring down as fugitives all the Babylonians in the ships in which they took pride. Isaiah 43:14. The lament for Babylon, Revelation 18:9 through 19. And the kings of the earth will cry and mourn over her, even those who committed fornication with her and indulged in wanton excess with her, when they look upon the smoke of her conflagration, standing at a safe distance on account of their fear of her torment, saying, Woe for the great city Babylon the mighty. For in 1 hour the judgment due you has come upon you, and the merchants of the earth who did business with you are crying and grieving over you, because no one buys their cargoes any longer. Cargoes of gold and silver, of precious stones and pearls, of linens and purple fabrics and silk and crimson cloth, and every sort of product made of fragrant wood, and every sort of product made of ivory, and every sort of product made of exceptionally precious wood and bronze and iron, and spices of cinnamon and anise and various sorts of incense and myrrh and frankincense and wine and olive oil and fine flour and grain and livestock and sheep, and of horses and chariots and bodies, that is, human beings enslaved or indentured. Indeed, the imports your heart lusted for have departed from you. And as to all your sleek and shiny cultural exports, the people of the world will never find them again. The merchants of all these things who grew rich from her, that is, Babylon, will stand at a distance on account of their fear of her torment, crying and grieving, saying, Woe, woe for the great city, the one clothed in linen and purple and scarlet, and gilded with gold and precious stones and pearls. Woe to her, for in a single hour she has been made bereft of such great wealth. And every captain and every one sailing to that place, and sailors, and as many as make their living from the sea, stood at a distance, and as they looked at the smoke of her burning, they cried out, saying, What city was ever like this great city? And they cast dust upon their heads in grief, and they cried out, wailing and grieving, saying, Woe, woe for the great city, by consorting with whom all who have ships on the sea became wealthy from her exceptionally expensive tastes. Woe to her, for in a single hour she has been made bereft of it all. Revelation 18:9 through 19. This passage evokes many obvious parallels with Ezekiel's lament over Tyre, and depicts the destruction of Babylon as being as thoroughly complete as that of other previous world empires. However, the indictment after the fact here of Babylon's exceptional and unprecedented luxuriation at the expense of others, without any concern on her part, and in complete rejection and disregard for the Lord's opinion of her wanton behavior, is a strikingly severe justification of her total destruction. There can be no doubt that her supercilious arrogance ascended to record-breaking heights, and that her correspondingly precipitous downfall is not only thoroughly justified, but the cause for just as much welcome celebration among the righteous as it is here of lamentation on the part of her accomplices in materialistic excess. As quickly as the forces of Antichrist have descended upon Babylon, just as quickly we may expect to see them go, heeding the call to assemble for the Battle of Armageddon and leaving a burned-out shell in their wake. That is, Revelation 18:10, 1 hour, refers to the rapidity of the operation. Believers who have now escaped from Babylon in response to the divine warnings that preceded her destruction will have occasion to appreciate the Lord's deliverance of them from that fatally stricken country, no matter how wrenching the departure may have been, or how much they may have seemed to have lost in a material way to have stayed, would have meant losing everything, and most probably their lives as well. Jesus tells us that we believers are the salt of the earth, Matthew 5:13, and salt with its preservative properties is a piquant metaphor for the preservative effect of a remnant of genuine, godly believers whose presence God honors wherever they may be found, even if it be in the midst of the great prostitute. But now, with all responsive believers having heeded the Lord's command to withdraw from Babylon, the wanton creature has found herself without any shred of protection. And while from the human viewpoint, the lack of military defense will seem critical, those who know their God will realize that just as the withdrawal of Lot from Sodom paved the way for her destruction, so the removal of the remnant of believers from Babylon will likewise remove the final impediment to her reaping what she has sown, in a similar way that the degradation of the remnant in Israel led to her removal from the land. The possessive genitive of the second-person singular pronoun su in Revelation 18:11, in the original of the Sinaiticus manuscript, makes it clear that the merchants in question in Revelation 18:11 through 13 are not Babylonian merchants, who apparently share in the judgment, but traders from other countries around the world. The extensive list of goods in that context are luxury imports, underlining what the Greek words streniao, Revelation 18:7 and 18:9, and strenios 18:3 mean in this chapter, namely Babylon's luxuriating in wanton excess, even while the rest of the world is going through the stark deprivations of the tribulation. Babylon is dressed in fine linen, bespeaking her economic dominance and luxury, purple, referring to her tyrannical rulership, scarlet, the color both of prostitution and of blood, and is adorned with gilding and precious stones, the results of these three anti-God activities, Revelation 18:16. In every respect, then, Babylon had become the queen of the nations, but what did this profit her? Though she came close to gaining the entire world, she has now been made bereft of everything she had possessed, plundered, looted, and put to the torch. Has not the Lord Almighty determined that the people's labor is only fuel for the fire, that the nations exhaust themselves for nothing? Habakkuk 2:13. And it will come to pass on the day when the Lord gives you rest from your pain, and from your turmoil, and from the hard labor which was levied upon you, that you will take up this taunt concerning the king of Babylon, that is, Antichrist, and you will say, how the oppressor, that is, Antichrist, has come to an end, how the golden city, that is, Babylon, has ceased to be. Isaiah 14:3 and 4.